Hey friends and daughters, it's Minister Ernest James again. I am a friend to fatherless daughters, and I thank you for allowing me to walk with you on this journey as you deal with being fatherless and dealing with quote unquote daddy issues, right? So I'm gonna jump right in. This is part 2 to reconnecting with your biological father. So if you remember from the last video, the last talk that we had, there were 3 things that I wanted you to take in consideration before reconnecting with your biological father, right? And then one thing was to know ahead of time that there is never going to be an acceptable answer of why he wasn't there, right? So don't look for it. Don't look for him to have some kind of answer that is going to make you say, oh, I understand why he wasn't there, because it doesn't exist, right? So that's number 1. Number 2 was you have to honestly be able to forgive him completely for not being in your life before you can allow him to come in now, right? Because if you can't forgive him completely for not being in your life in the past and the things that occurred during his absence, right? If you can't forgive him for that, then you'll never be able to honestly receive him at this point in your life and move forward into the future. So you have to be able to honestly make the decision to forgive him for not being there. And I went into it a little bit deeper on the last video, so if you didn't watch that one, go back and check that one out. Part 1 to reconnecting with your biological father. And the third thing was decide what you want to accomplish by allowing him to come back into your life now, right? So that was part 1. So now part 2 is after you realize that his answer is never going to be an acceptable one of why he wasn't there, yet you've decided to forgive him honestly and 100% for not being there, and then you have decided what it was that you want to accomplish by allowing him to come into your life, right, to reconnect with you. Now, after you've done those 3 things, which is part 1, now we're going to part 2. So part 2, there is 4 things that I want you to consider when reconnecting with your biological father. Okay, the first thing is make room for him, or should I say make a space for him. So once you have decided what it is you want to accomplish by reconnecting with him, and like the example I gave last time was, you may not need him to be a father to you at this point, but you may want him to be a better grandfather to your kids than he was a father to you, right? So once you've made up your mind, whatever it is that you want to accomplish by reconnecting with him, then you have to make a space for him to operate within your boundaries that you set. Again, because like I said, you don't want to just give him free range, right, to come and go as he please in your life. We already dealt with that. So now, if he's going to be a part of your life, give him a space, right? This is your box. When you show me that you can be consistent and effective in filling this box, filling this space that I have made for you in my life, even if it's just to connect with your grandchildren. I don't want you to even talk to me, but I want you to connect with your grandchildren. So once you have showed me that you can be consistent and effective inside that box, then I would think about enlarging the box and allowing you to have a little more range into my life, right, or into your life. So make a space for him. Make sure there's boundaries around that space, and do not let him out of that space until he has proven that he's up for that challenge. All right, so that's number 1, make room for him. Number 2 is go into it with no expectations, right? So this one is kind of hard because most of the time, and the reason why I say this, because most of the time when you are a fatherless daughter and you haven't had the opportunity to have your father in your life or on a consistent basis, then your idea of a father and what a father is and should be is usually made up of bits and pieces of things that happen in your life. So it'll be bits and pieces of other fathers that you saw, bits and pieces of fathers on TV that you saw, bits and pieces of movies of fathers that you saw, right? So in your mind, you put all these things together because you've received these images of what a father is or should be, and so you've made up in your mind, okay, this is what he should be, this is what he should look like, right? But when you go in it with those expectations of what you think a father should be based off no real evidence, then when he doesn't live up to those expectations, then it will destroy the opportunity for him to reconnect with you, because he won't come in the form that you think that he should come in. So if you're going to receive him, then you have to receive him with no expectations, right? Don't expect anything. Just see what he brings to the table and how he comes, and then evaluate him with that, right? So that will lead me to number 3. So that's number 2 is come in with no expectations. Number 3 is when he does come to the table, bringing whatever it is that he brings, whatever personality, whatever characteristics that he brings to the table, you have to be willing to accept him for who he is and not for who you want him to be, right? Because you may want him to be a loving and attentive father, and he may not be that at all. You may want him to come with hugs and kisses, and he may not bring that, right? You may want him to come to the table, and you may want him to come bearing gifts, and that might not be his thing, right? He may think just his presence alone is good enough, right? So whatever he brings to the table, you have to accept it, that's just who he is, right? And not who I want him to be, this is who he is. Because if I try to make him be who I want him to be, it's not going to work out, right? And if he tries to be something other than what he's not, sooner or later, he's going to go back into who he really is. So if I don't accept him for who he really is, and I accept him for being this person that he might try to portray, when he does go back to who he really is, which eventually he will, if I am not acceptable of that, then I'm going to be crushed all over again, right? You're going to be crushed all over again, because it's like, oh, he let me down again. Oh, he lied to me again. So whoever he comes to you and shows you that that's who he is, believe him that that's who he is, and then receive him for being just that, right? So whoever he shows you to be, whether he's loving, whether he's not, whether he's caring, whether he's not, whether he's honest, whether he's not, whatever he shows you and who he shows you to be that he is, then you have to be able to accept him for just that, right? And depending on who he shows you to be will determine on how long or how big or small that space is that you allow him to operate in, and how many boundaries you have to put up around it, right? To make sure that he doesn't, move in and out of your life, or move in and out of that space that you gave him, right? If he have not proven himself to be worthy of more space in your life, okay? So the fourth one, which is very, very important, and that is, don't be afraid to walk away if you're not receiving what it is that you feel that you should receive, right? If he's coming to the table and he's study lying, if he's coming to the table and he's still not being truthful, if he's coming to the table and he's still inconsistent, and he's coming to the table and he's not operating with dignity and showing you the kind of love and affection that you deserve as his daughter, walk away. Okay? You made it this far without him, you sure will be okay to finish out your life without him, right? So I know in the beginning I said that you do need a father. Every daughter should have a father or a father figure. And we all know that all the time it cannot be, or it will not be, your biological father. So if your biological father, after you reconnect with him, is not showing you the love that you expect, the love that you need, the attentiveness, he's not consistent, whatever it may be that is a game changer for you, walk away. And feel free to do that. And this is one thing that I want you to take in consideration and keep this in your mind, right? If you decide to walk away, you don't have to feel bad about it. Because any man that does not love his child does not truly love himself, right? So you can take honor in knowing that if I have to walk away because my dad does not love me or is not showing me that he loved me, it's not because there's anything wrong with me, it's because it's wrong with him, and he don't love himself. So if he don't love himself, then he can't love me, right? So again, this is Minister James, and we're just going over the 4 things that you need to do when reconnecting with your biological father. And again, this is part 2. After part 1, if you missed part 1, please go back and watch it, because you got to do part 1 before you get to part 2. But so if you made it to part 2, then it's 4 things you need to keep in mind. 1, make room for him, or make a space for him in your life for him to operate in within the boundaries of that space before you give him a larger space to occupy in your life. That's number 1, make room for him. Number 2, go in with no expectations. Don't expect him to be something that he's not. Don't expect him to be the man who you feel he should be, right? That's number 2. Number 3, accept him for whoever he is. Whoever he shows you, when he shows you who he is, accept him for being just that. And number 4, if who he is unacceptable to you, feel free to walk away, knowing that he can't love you like he should because he don't love himself, right? Again, this is Minister James. I am your friend to fatherless daughters. I love you. I'm praying for you. Leave your questions or comments down below. I will definitely get to them. I'll definitely address them. Until next time, I'm praying for you. I love you, and I'll see you later.